Personal Story segment tonight, as we mentioned in the Talking Points memo, far-left elements of the Democratic Party are running wild with their rhetoric, even after President Obama called for civility last week. One of the biggest offenders is Tennessee Congressman Steve Cohen, who yesterday compared the Republican anti-Obamacare stance to Nazi propaganda. Not the first time Cohen had said outrageous stuff.
The Tea Party people are kind of like without robes and hoods. They have really shown a very hardcore, angry side of America that is against any type of diversity. And we saw opposition to African Americans, hostility toward gays, hostility to anybody who wasn't just, a clone of George Wallace's fan club. And I'm afraid they've taken over the Republican Party.
Join us now from Washington to respond, Democrats Michael Brown and Maria Cardona. Ms. Cardona, first of all, should the president call out Congressman Cohen?
Well, I think that what you're going to see and what I think will happen is that there will be other Democrats and there will be messages to this congressman to basically tone it down.
So surrogates will do it, not the president himself. Now, why do you think that?
And I don't think he should.
Okay, but let's take it one at a time. Why shouldn't President Obama himself pick up the phone privately, doesn't have to do it in a public way, and say, listen, you're hurting me, you're hurting the party.
Yeah.
You would advise him to do that.
I think it would not be out of the realm of possibility, and he should do that because it is completely within keeping with what he told all of us in Tucson to live up to. And it doesn't help the president when there is this kind of rhetoric in his own party, but I think more than hurting the president, it hurts this congressman personally.
No,
it helps,
I don't think he has
hurts his prospects, and
these guys, they don't really, as we saw with Grayson, they don't really care. Do you see it the same way, Mr. Brown? Would you advise President Obama to call Cohen and tell him to knock it off?
Well, I think President Obama has pretty good political skills, and from my standpoint, if he decides to pick up his phone or if he asks somebody else to do it for him, it's the same thing. And yes, I do think that congressman will get a phone call. The question is, did Speaker Boehner call the member of Congress who called the president a liar in the well of the United States Congress in the State of the Union, which has never happened before? Was that person called? Not by the media.
Okay.
Was he called by the leadership of the Republican Party?
I don't think that helped the Republican Party at all. Do you? That yelling, Congressman Wilson yelling liar in the House of Representatives, do you think that helped the Republican Party?
I don't think necessarily. No, that's the point I'm making. I don't think it necessarily helped the Republican Party. Right. It wasn't about that. It wasn't helping the decorum of the United States Congress.
It wasn't helping anything.
That was the issue.
Right.
That was the issue.
And Mr. Brown, you're smart enough to know you don't justify bad behavior by pointing to other bad behavior. But you both both agree that phone calls will be made to Cohen. But I'll submit to you, Ms. Cardona, that these far-left bomb throwers, particularly in the media, are so far out of control, they're going to ignore it. Because President Obama couldn't have been more clear last week. He couldn't have been more clear. And it was just hours after he got off the dais that they started again with this invective, hateful invective. So they're just ignoring him. That's what they're doing.
Well, and I think they do that at their own peril, whether that is a blogger, whether that's a news talk radio person.
What's the peril? What's the peril? MSNBC, Ms. Cardona, makes a living out of personal attacks. That's what the network does. That's what it does. That's why it beats CNN. CNN is so boring, when they open their mouth, dust falls out, okay? So the other people said, you know, we can beat them. We're not as good covering the news. CNN will never cover the news as well as CNN. So we'll attack people. We'll be the World Wrestling Federation. And that's what they did. But you're telling me they're not going to do it because Obama says no? Then what do? They don't have anything else.
No. Here is the point, and I think you actually alluded to this. Elected officials are the ones who really have to carry the mantle here. They are the ones who have to set the example for the rest of the country.
Who's going to do that?
You're right.
Who's going to do that? Nancy Pelosi, the minority leader, going to do? Is Nancy Pelosi going to do that? Is she going to do it? No. Harry Reid, is he going to do it?
Yeah, she will do it by example. He will do it by example. But Bill, you have to understand that these phone calls, when they are made, they're not going to put out a press release when they're making them.
Mr. Brown, I'm going to give you the last word.
Privately.
I and Dana Perino and me agree that Dana Perino and I agree, I think, that in the long run, the viciousness on the far left will hurt President Obama. You say?
Well, I'm not sure. If you look at what happened with President Bush with the far right, he was kind of put on a pedestal that he was able to stand up to that element of the party. This could actually strengthen President Obama relative to saying, look, I can stand up to the,
if he
to the
stands
folks
up
on
to
the far left. So
if he does.
If he stands, well, I think he will and has. So
well, I don't think he has.
I think it's the same thing.
In fact,
so,
I know he has.
Well,
because
well,
there's
I
nothing
think
on,
he has.
Well, there's nothing on the record that shows that, Mr. Brown, with all due respect.
Well,
nothing at all.
Again, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do a press conference every time you
it doesn't
talk
matter.
to a member of Congress
on the
about
public
toning you
record,
down.
there is not one example of President Obama
doesn't have to
standing
be
up
on the
to
public.
the
Why
yes,
does it have to be on the
because
public
that's what the
record?
public judges politicians on.
Well,
the
no,
record.
we judge if their conduct changes and their behavior changes.
It's on policies,
right.
Bill. One of the reasons why the left
if their
is mad at
behavior
him
magically
is because
changes, then
hasn't
we'll attribute it to behind the scenes. All right. Very interesting debate. Thank you both. Directly ahead, Laura Ingraham on President Obama's rising poll numbers. And then Megyn Kelly on the biggest mob bust in